This is Justin.
And this is Haley. You're listening to The Price of Avocado Toast.
We're a married millennial couple wanting to normalize the conversations around money. We want to hear about your highs and your lows,
The do's and the don'ts on your path towards financial freedom. Hi Toasties! Welcome to The Price of Avocado Toast.
Whether you're a first-time listener or you've been following us from the start of this thing, we're so glad to have this conversation with you today.
Okay, last week's episode was a big one. We announced that we are selling our house to get out of debt. We're going to go back into the renting market. And we're going to keep giving updates throughout our home selling process because it is quite the process. But our house goes live in less than a week now. So it's getting real as if it wasn't real enough when we put that episode out. But we will keep posting updates on our Instagram. So if you're not following us yet, make sure you follow us on Instagram. It's at The Price of Avocado Toast. And we will be doing some updates with episodes on the selling process as well.
Yeah, we want to be as transparent as possible through the moving process.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been transparent. That's what our whole podcast is focused about, is being transparent.
Yeah.
So we want to be transparent, too, about the sale of a home and what the funds are going to look like afterwards. Like, we're not trying to hide anything from anyone because we've run the math. We've run the numbers of what it takes to stick around and pay for daycare and all that stuff. And we've run the math on selling our home. And we want to be transparent in that process so that maybe the next young Justin and Haley that are out there who are going to go through this process can be a little bit wiser to the decision.
And I feel like people need to know about the home selling process when you go and buy a home that you fully intend to not be a forever home. And that was something we never even considered until now we're in the position. So we're definitely going to keep you guys updated with that. But there has been so much support throughout our announcement. So I just really wanted to say thank you. Thank you so much for all of the support. And we just really, we appreciate it. This has not been easy, but it's been a little easier with the kind words everyone has been sending.
Yeah, the community makes it easier to cope and easier to process, and people have given really good advice and support to me as somebody who's leaving my hometown and leaving my my comfort zone. People have given us some really good pep talks, so we appreciate it. But we've still got plenty of time for the move, so today we're going to get into our interview with Alison, aka Baby Step into Freedom on Instagram. You'll notice that her handle, Baby Step into Freedom, kind of ties into a former guy that we used to listen to and support. So we were hyped to have this conversation with Alison as a couple people who are moving away from the Ramsey Solutions community. So without making you wait any longer and hearing us talk about our home sale, let's jump into our interview with Alison. All right, you guys, today we are sitting down with Alison, aka Baby Step into Freedom on Instagram. Alison, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, the listeners aren't going to be able to see this, but you guys, Alison has the dopest background right now on Zoom. Tiger King is her background. And
Joe Exotic himself with a big giant tiger.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right next to her head. It's just gold.
Yeah, it is very clearly a quarantine Zoom life when you you like turn on your Zoom and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot like back in April when I wanted to say hi to family members that like it was me and Joe Exotic.
Here's Tiger King.
Yeah. It's a glorious picture though. It's the blue jumpsuit or whatever. I don't know, suede jacket. I don't know.
Sequin
Sequin
jacket.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He looks great. Anyways, nonetheless, thank you for your wonderful background and for joining us today.
You're welcome. I'm keeping it.
Awesome. I like it. Perfect. Yeah, I'm glad you didn't change it. So just tell us and the listeners a little bit about what your Instagram's all about, what you're all about, how you got into the financial space, so to speak.
So my Instagram account these days has changed a lot since when I first started it. So when I first started it, we were a year into our debt-free journey, and we had really reached a place where we were losing some motivation, or I was losing some motivation. I wanted to talk to people about it and share what we were doing and have some people that I could relate to. And I found the debt-free community on Instagram, and I was like, this is a great, place for me to kind of stay motivated and talk with people who are doing similar things. And it's just kind of progressed from there. I have started a YouTube channel and done a blog, and then that has all kind of fizzled out over the years. I've had my account for like 3.5 years now. So I've done a lot of different things through my account. Now I have a baby and that's my priority. And so my Instagram account has turned into just a lot of baby content and cats and occasional finance stuff. But we documented the last couple years of our debt-free journey while we were saving our emergency fund. And now I do occasional updates on budget related stuff and kind of what we're working towards financially, but it's changed now because it's not quite as exciting as it was when we were paying off a mountain of debt. And now our financial life has become relatively boring. So I don't update as much financial stuff because it just kind of, is not really as exciting as it used to be, but that's kind of where we're at.
I really like that your page does include stuff from your real life, whether it is stuff about your home or your daughter, anything that is not just financial, because I feel like people can go on there and get to know you as a person and not just this person with perfect little graphic squares about getting out of debt,
Right.
Because you're real. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I try to post real life and just kind of relate to people and be super transparent and open.
I think it's true though that like once you get out of that mountain of debt, financial independence or like financial literacy is kind of boring.
Yeah.
Like it's really not that exciting. You can't like do a ton of like cute graphics and stuff. Like, I mean, I guess you could like share what you've invested in or maybe some projects you're working on, but like I think the community itself really rallies around people who are paying off debt because it's such an exciting thing.
Oh, totally.
And like people are accomplishing these really big goals. But you're right. Like once you hit it, it's kind of like, okay.
Right, exactly. Well, and even, okay, so we're investing in XYZ, whatever it is, but then that just becomes the same thing too. And so for a while I was doing posts about our monthly retirement contributions and how much that was. And I got a few months into it and I realized, well, they're like deductions from our paychecks and it's the same thing every single month. So
Yeah.
I mean, I can only say how much I'm putting towards my 403b so many times before it's boring. So
for sure. So if I could ask, you guys paid off this debt. What is I guess the next goal for you guys? Are you a family that focuses on potentially like being in the FIRE movement, or are you just like, we just want to take care of investments and we've made these choices, so we want to continue on this, good path of finances?
So we're kind of in a weird place right now because I think when we think down the road, that FIRE movement of being able to retire early sounds great, but in reality, I don't know if that is where we're headed. It's kind of hard for us to know exactly where we're headed. So we have some long-term goals, but as far as 20, 30 years in the future, that's, we haven't set super like crazy goals for ourselves. So right now our focus is retirement contributions and just getting more consistent with that. We were consistent for a while and then I went on maternity leave and that paused everything because our goal was to just make it through that. So now we're just kind of getting back there. And then we're also working on paying off our house. So we set a goal. We refinanced our house November 2019 and it was a 15-year. We went from a 30-year to a 15-year, and our goal was to pay that off in 10 years. So we're now 8-ish years from that goal. We'll see if that happens, but we now have childcare to pay for, and that that has thrown a big wrench into all of our plans. So that's pretty much the extent of our goals right now. Just continuing to invest in our retirement funds, work on paying down our house, and figure out how to have a baby and pay for childcare.
Yeah.
There's a lot involved when you add people into the family. Would you mind sharing with us what you and your husband do for work?
Yeah. I am a speech language pathologist and I work in the public school system. Yeah.
I heard 403B and was like, education somewhere.
Yeah, that's me. And then my husband, Aaron, is an insurance agent. He focuses on business insurance. So he works with businesses and sells them insurance for their business.
Perfect. I love hearing what people do.
Yeah.
'Cause we've had so many different types of people on the podcast with different walks of life and different backgrounds with education and different careers. So it's interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I kind of glossed over it, but are you cool sharing the number of debt that you guys got out of?
Oh, yeah.
Because I was kind of like, hey, now that you're debt free, but like it's pretty cool hearing about this. So if you're cool sharing.
For sure. We paid off $125,000 worth of debt in, now I forgot, 26 months, something like that. It's been a while now. I forgot all the details, but yeah, it was a little over 2 years that it took us to pay off $125,000 of debt.
That's hardcore.
Yeah, that's no joke.
It was a pretty big mountain for us, and it's a big accomplishment that we're very proud of.
Yeah, so I'm sure student loans were probably in there then somewhere, and then just the other normal stuff. Like we had credit debt, we had student loan debt, we had furniture debt, we had timeshare debt. I mean,
we had student loans and credit cards. We had a car, and then a patio that we put in, and solar panels on our house. That was all of the debt combined.
Very normal.
Do you guys get to enjoy the patio and the solar panels regularly often?
Sometimes when it's nice here in Washington.
Yeah. Do you have like a bunch of snow outside of your house right now?
Not right now. We did last weekend. We had over a foot of snow last weekend, and now it's all melted and it's blue skies today. And
nice. Perfect. That's not a bad weekend then. Yeah. Awesome. That's pretty
I was
cool.
out in my t-shirt and no jacket today.
Oh wow. That is warm and fancy. Yeah. Are you in Battleground?
Yeah.
That's such a small little specific place. My brother lived there for a really long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay, so I want to go back in time to the beginning of when you first started I guess it would be your debt-free journey when you really just hammered down budgeting. Can you just tell us like about the first few months of budgeting and how that was for you? Was it easy? Was it hard?
Yeah, it was a big change for us because we were not living on any budget. The life that we lived was getting paid, trying to pay our bills, buying whatever we wanted, reaching the end of the month and being like, oh crap, what do we do now? And then pull money from savings. And it was just like this constant cycle that we were in, and we were never making progress on anything. The straw that broke the camel's back for us was the patio. We decided that it was a great idea to put in a patio. We financed it when we were going through the finance process. They were asking us, what we could afford monthly. And we realized all we could afford was like $150. And we had no more room to fit any other payment in. And that was kind of a wake-up call for both of us because we had careers and we owned a house, and we were like, wow, we can only afford an extra $150 a month. And that was stretching it. And so it was that moment where we realized maybe we should start doing something about this. The patio loan was a year of no payments and no interest, that kind of thing. And so we said, okay, we have a year to figure this out before this $150 payment starts coming in. And that was kind of what kickstarted us into it. It was pretty difficult, emotional to get started on budgeting because we didn't really know how to do it and we didn't really know what would work for us. And so I would say it took us a good 3 to 4 months to really feel comfortable in what we were doing and get a good system in place.
Sounds a lot like our experience. There was a lot of, I just remember looking back being like, what the hell did we do? And how did we get to this spot?
Yeah.
And there was shame and embarrassment tied to it. And then starting the budgeting process was getting rid of all these things that we've spent years being used to doing, like getting my nails done, getting massages, going out to eat all the time, multiple times a week. And so it was a really difficult and emotional change for sure.
I would say the hardest part for us was the things that we were doing with other people that we then had to start saying that we couldn't do. The summer, so our wake up call with the patio was in May of 2016, and then July of 2016 Aaron's sister was getting married in Mexico, and it was like, we're going to this, and we had saved for it, but it was just this weird period of time where we were trying to start living on a budget and cut everything down, but we were also going to Mexico. And then, there were other things that were happening that we had agreed to do, but then we were trying to figure out financially how to fit that in. And we had to start saying no to a lot of things. And that was the biggest change for us, was figuring out how to tell the people in our life that we can't do things when we had historically done everything and not said no.
I think it also kind of connects with that issue being two people that have careers, right? Like when we started our, journey towards debt freedom, I had just become a teacher and Haley had already been teaching for a year. So when you're turning people down and saying like, we can't do that, it's not in our budget. And people are like, wait a minute, you guys both have careers. Like you both have really good jobs. And I don't think a lot of people understand, the sacrifices that it takes to try and get to where you want to be and how difficult it is to turn people down. Like it's not easy telling your friends like, nah, I can't do that. Or, like, oh, that's not in our budget. It's hard. And there's a part of, I don't want to say shame because it's not really shame, but you're bummed. Obviously you want to do fun things and spend time with people that you love. Yeah.
Total FOMO.
So much FOMO.
Yeah, absolutely. There's things that we've had friends get married since then and stuff. And you start to like break down, okay, how am I going to squeeze in this tuxedo rental for my buddy's wedding? And we got to pull money from this part of the budget to do it. And you're like, shoot, this is setting us back a little bit. But yeah, the FOMO definitely kicks in. Yeah. It's hard. That's the first few months of budgeting are pretty darn difficult. And so I think a lot of people need to hear that. What was the hardest thing for you guys to give up other than maybe like the time with friends or the events and stuff? Was there something in your budget that you were like, oh, this is brutal?
We didn't cut out a whole lot. Like we got rid of the cable, and that was something that as soon as it was gone, we didn't miss. I've never missed not having cable. We used to have a water delivery, like a water dispenser thingy, and they would bring the big 5-gallon jug, and that was nice. And Aaron always still talks about like, we have this goal of having the water delivery again. So I guess maybe that, but it's really not like that big. I think it was like $30 a month or something.
Do you have a Brita now? Like a Brita water filter?
Nope, just good old tap water.
Oh.
Yep. But I mean, overall, I would say it was just the getting out of being super impulsive about everything and thinking through and having delayed gratification and buying things and planning, and not just putting it on the credit card and figuring out later, except not figuring it out later. That was the hardest thing for us, to just change that style of life.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
I think that, like, at least for us too, it wasn't anything that we really had to cut, because like you said, we cut cable, and like I don't miss it that much. And Haley, when she wants to get like Teen Mom, she'll just like buy the Amazon season set and like do her guilty pleasure like that. But you're right, it's the little impulsivity that begins to add up, and you're like, okay, like it's not that much to get like $3 at the gas station getting this, or $10 of coffee, or like these scones or something. But then it just, at the end of the month, you're like, holy smokes, it adds up to maybe $200-$300 of useless stuff that's like, if I had just planned a little bit better and stuck to a budget, like we could really do some damage.
Well, the other day we were driving in the car, and I asked you, do you crave going out to eat anymore?
Yeah.
And you said, not really. And when we first got started, it was like, I mean, we used to eat out. When we first started budgeting, we went back and figured we were spending about $700 a month eating out. And that included like coffee runs and all those little things. And that was a huge wake-up call.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to eat out all the time and just drop $100 on dinner, no big deal, like in the middle of the week. And I would never do that now.
Never.
That is like a straight treat. Anyway, yeah, we just don't. I mean, before it was like, I need this right now. I need a burger. We need to call them and get it right this second. But because we
right, and not even thinking about it, just
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's just that's just what you do, like, well, let's just do this. And I think the biggest change for us, and I feel like this is kind of what you're getting at, is that now you think about it and you're like, well, how am I going to pay for that? Do I have the money for that? Where does that fit into the budget? And it's more of a thought process of how you're spending money versus just like doing it because you do it.
Right. Yeah, it's the thought of he wants chicken wings, so we think about it, and then the next time we go to Costco, he buys wings, and we have wings in the freezer for when we want them. And instead of going and dropping $30 at Wingstop.
Yeah, for sure.
That happened the other day. Aaron went to the store and he had to get like Ziploc bags or something, and he was going to get chicken strips, and he's like, let's go back for dinner and get chicken strips. And so that was the plan. We were going to go get chicken strips. And then I was like, you realize we have frozen chicken strips in the freezer right now. They're not as good as deli chicken strips, we know that, but they're in the freezer. We need to use freezer food. We have an air fryer, and we made our freezer chicken strips, and that's what we had for dinner.
Love it. That's awesome.
Air fryers are what's up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. Air fried chicken strips.
Can we
let's get some chicken strips and throw them in the freezer.
Yeah,
I like
we're
that.
going grocery shopping after this call.
Yeah. Perfect.
I'm a little hungry. Okay, so you are a new mom. Is this your first child?
Yes.
Well, congratulations.
Congrats.
How old is she now?
She's almost 6 months.
Oh, that's fun. This is when it gets fun.
Yeah.
Yes. She is starting to move, and
so she has her outfits of the day where she wears like bows and super cute outfits, like what I used to dress Calliope.
Nice.
So it makes me think of our daughter. So I wanted to ask you about family planning and being in debt. I feel like so many people have asked, like, I want to get married, I want to have kids, I want to do all these things, but I have 6 figures of debt and we just can't afford it. What would you say to someone who is ready to start a family, but they have a bunch of debt? What would you say to them?
This topic is difficult because I think that it really depends on each individual person and what they value and what's important to them. For us, it was really important to get out of debt because we looked before we had a kid, because we were looking at our future and we were trying to figure out how we would afford anything related to a kid in that situation, where we were struggling to find $150 in our budget. We were like, how would we ever pay thousands of dollars a month for childcare, which is essentially what we're paying right now. And so, but some people don't, I don't know what word I'm looking for, care about that as much. Starting the family is more important, and they'll just figure that out later. And I'm a huge planner, and I like to know exactly how things are going to work out. And so us planning that far in advance was important for me. So I guess what I would say to answer your question is for someone to really evaluate what is important to them, and if it eases that transition in life to know that you are in a better financial place. If your finances are more overwhelming to you than figuring out how to add a baby to your family, then be aware of that and know that, adding a baby in is going to be a big stress that, adding to a financial stress. So
yeah, it's definitely family specific though. You're right, because some people may be like, oh, we're a single income home and mom or somebody else is going to be able to be home with the kiddos. We won't have to get childcare. So even if we are still in debt, we're not going to have to incur too much cost. That was probably a bad phrase for incurring costs with kids. My apologies to anybody that's out there, but you know what I mean, right? Like having to add to their budget. Yeah. Versus like, okay, we're a, multi-income home and we're not going to have somebody, so kids have to be in childcare. Like it makes sense that it really is family specific and maybe one size doesn't quite fit all. We had the officiant from our wedding. They have 4 kids and we asked them like, what do we do? And they were like, well, if you're waiting for the right time financially to have a kid, you might be waiting forever.
It's true.
And that really could be true, whether you're in debt or out of debt or whatever. There's always going to be financial additions that come with starting a family. And so if you're waiting for that like perfect moment, you may not get there until you're, much older and maybe not in a safe range to have a baby. Who knows?
I mean, we were more along the lines of let's just have the baby and then figure out the finances. And then COVID happened, which for our family happened to work out great for us because we were both able to stay home. And Justin is still working from home. And so we haven't had to do childcare yet. But we never really thought about it. We didn't think of it beforehand. We were like, oh, we'll just figure it out when it comes. And now I can see how that would be extremely stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Well, and for me, like I cannot make big decisions in life without thinking through, like we're starting solids soon. And I literally, it's like all I can think about is like, what is the first food going to be? Where are we? What day is it going to be? It needs to be on a weekend so we can, and like, I am thinking through any change I think through for so long. So having a baby was not just a snap decision for us. We talked about having a baby for a long time. We were married for 5 years before I got pregnant. And so it was definitely more than just the financial aspect. Like we discussed what we wanted in life a lot before we decided to have a baby. So
I'm going off topic here. Have you ever taken your Enneagram?
I haven't.
Well, I would like you to take it, and I predict that you are a 3 because they are the planners, and that's my thought. So if you do take it, let me know.
I will.
I think you're a 3.
Okay.
There you go. Okay, so this next portion, or I guess the next few questions we have, are centered around a hot topic, Mr. Dave. So, we recently had an episode come out where we talked about kind of some of our issues with Dave as two people who started our journey by following the Ramsey plan and consuming every ounce of content that we could from Dave and his staff. And, after we put out the podcast, some people had differing opinions and stuff, and that's great. But for our house, it was important to us to share that. And going through, your Instagram and stuff, it's very clear that you guys are in the same boat as us. And as somebody who has a relatively big following, we were like, okay, we've got to talk to her about all this. So the first thing I kind of want to ask, because it was really interesting reading one of your posts, was you mentioned that after getting out of debt, that some of the baby steps didn't quite align with some of the things you guys were wanting to plan out or wanting to do financially. Which were what baby steps were the ones that didn't quite fit? Because we're still in baby step 2, and you know how it is when you consume Dave's content. We were like 1 through 7, let's go, like this is it, But then being in 2 and hearing like, hey, actually maybe it doesn't quite align, it kind of piques our interest. Like, ooh, maybe there's a different way. So what if you don't mind sharing, what was the kind of misstep for you guys, or what ones didn't work for you?
Yeah. So after baby step 3, so we did the whole thing. We were very, very much Dave Ramsey baby step. I mean, that's what my whole account name is, inspired by. But after we had our emergency fund and we really started looking at, baby steps 4, 5, 6, 7, and how that looked for us, that's where we started thinking, well, maybe this is not really making sense for us. So, 4 is, now it's been so long, 4 is retirement, right? No, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And 5 is children's college, which obviously didn't apply to us at the time. 6 is paying off the house. 7, live and give like no one else. So, he talks about retirement being 15% of your income. And when we started looking at what that looked like for us, it, sometimes we wanted to do more and sometimes we wanted to do less. And we didn't want it to be just this, steady 15%. And we wanted to spread out in our investments a little bit. So I was investing, I'm starting up again now that maternity leave is over, in both a Roth 403b and a traditional 403b. Aaron has a 401k. We both have IRAs. And so we we've kind of been all over the place with our investments and trying different things and not doing this, very like 15%. That's what we're doing. So sometimes, it's like 5% in the traditional 403b, 10% in the Roth 403b, and then we throw a little extra here, a little extra there. So that was kind of the first point where we were like, oh, well, maybe we're not like 100% Dave Ramsey here. And then when we were starting to pay off the house, we were really motivated to do that as soon as possible. And we're still motivated to pay off the house, but it's become like a secondary goal because we have other things right now. If we have an extra couple $100 in the month, we will make an extra mortgage payment, but it's not this primary focus for us anymore. And I just don't feel like we are really, I don't know, focused on the baby steps. We're doing what feels right in the moment. We haven't actually contributed to retirement since August because of maternity leave and childcare and trying to figure out what that looks like. And we've started making small extra mortgage payments, but I just feel like it kind of ebbs and flows through time. And the baby step program doesn't really reflect that. And I think that often makes people feel like they're not following, or they can't be successful with it because those end baby steps don't really reflect real life. Baby steps 1, 2, and 3 is a short period of time. You can be focused on that. That's fine. But when you start living life after that, you realize that it really is not black and white. And there's so many things that can change.
Yeah, that's so true. It's so fluid. And that was something that we struggled with at times, was feeling very static and locked in and feeling, almost like, oh my gosh, we're going against the financial Bible itself by doing something differently or by thinking differently. And you start to kind of feel like, wait, I'm not going to be successful, or my family's not going to be okay if we do it differently. But you're right. A baby comes along and you pause and you readjust and you look at things and you decide what's best for your family. And, having a home mortgage isn't the worst thing in the world. Like it's going to get paid whether it's 10 years or 15 years. And you guys will be just fine by not having the other debt that, maybe was saddling you in the past. So that makes sense. That it really isn't black and white. There's a lot of gray area to financial literacy. So thanks for sharing that. Because it was something that I was like, I wonder what that is. Because when, you're right, that short window of 1, 2, and 3, like you can jam through that, a couple years and you're out of that debt. And then it's like, wait, I got, 40, 50 years left of life now. What do I do with this chunk?
Yeah. Exactly. And Dave doesn't really, he talks about it, but not really in that sense. And I think that it often makes people feel confused when they get to that point of, you start really realizing that, it's not as easy as, these baby steps that you really need to start looking at other things and learning from other, using other resources, that kind of stuff, because like, investing 15% in, I don't know what he said. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've listened to Dave, but whatever he says to invest in, it's like, well, maybe I don't have that available to me, or maybe, that doesn't make the most sense for me. And so
it's definitely not a one size fits all thing. And that's what I really realized since like the end of 2020 was really when we said, wait a minute, this is not aligned with what we want to do. I think we need to take a step back. And then we did our Dave Ramsey episode. Now I've been talking to so many people about different things and taking resources from different areas that I never would have considered before. Before it was just Dave Ramsey and Dave Ramsey only. And then 2 people on our podcast, I believe both Chris's, we were talking about investing while paying off debt. And they mentioned the 7% thing. Like if your debt is over 7%, then invest at the same time. But if it's under,
no, if your debt is over 7%, pay it off. Credit card, the high debts. If it's below 7%, carry it while also contributing to retirement.
Yeah, and so that has been like I never would have thought of that, because all I knew was that you stop everything until you're there, and that's not necessarily.
Dave says so.
Yeah, exactly, and you don't question it. So we noticed, Justin noticed, you have significantly more followers on Instagram than we do. When we posted about Dave, for the most part, people were supportive. We had some trolls coming in that weren't even following us. They were just random people that came onto our page to be annoying. But the majority of people were in favor of what we were saying or really supportive of us in general. Did you receive any backlash? You have way more people. So I was wondering, were people mad when you started speaking out against Dave or once you started doing things differently, or were people pretty supportive as well?
I would say that my experience is probably similar to yours, that there have been a few people who have, been haters, but overall people are, supportive and agree. And I will say that since maybe May, June-ish, when I've started talking about a little more political type stuff on my page, I have lost a significant amount of followers, and that's fine. I used to care. I used to be trying to make an income off my account because that was a goal. I had my YouTube channel, my blog and everything. And life changed when I had a baby and my goals changed. And now I'm not trying to really grow it. And I'm just trying to use it as an outlet. And so I don't really care that I've lost 2,000 followers. So I would love for people to just unfollow if they don't want to see my stuff. But I have had some people message me some things, and some of them have not been very nice. Yeah. And when that happens, I will share it and let people know how someone else is being a jerk face.
Yeah. I do that too.
I have told Haley, like, Dave Ramsey's got some shooters out there on Instagram. Oh, yeah. Like some people that are like, yo, you talk about our God and we're coming out. And I was like, like, where are these people even coming from? Like,
it's weird.
Follow our account. Like,
and I go on their page and I'm like, who the hell? Well, first off, who are you? Second, like, you're not, how did you get to my page? Like, I understand it's public, but how did you find me? Yeah. Do you just came? I mean, It's so weird. You're not following me. So how did you get here? Yeah. And then they're here just.
Yep. They.
Yeah, it's wild.
Shooting.
But I would say the majority, at least maybe this is just the majority of people that I interact with, because they're the people who have decided to stay, feel a similar way.
That's what we've seen too.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. And it's not, I mean, I feel like my perspective is based on, the people that I surround myself with virtually. And so it feels like there's a big shift away from Dave Ramsey.
Definitely.
Now, maybe that's just because the people that I surround myself with are people that are shifting away from Dave Ramsey. But it's nice to know that, like, it is kind of a movement.
Yeah.
And even if it is just the people I surround myself with, the people that's who I want to surround myself with. I've really started realizing in the past year that it's not worth it to me to surround myself with people who have different values and morals. I used to try and please everyone, and that's not where I am in my life these days.
That's awesome. There's just so many brilliant people on social media nowadays that weren't around, or social media wasn't around when Dave started. So Dave was like the point of knowledge on all this stuff. But now you have brilliant people that just have, an Instagram page and they share great stuff. It's like, why can't I, pull all of these different resources to help my family be financially successful? Why do I have to just have this like one program? So it's really cool because I agree. Like, there's definitely a shift away from that to understanding, well, wait, like that person has a good idea and that person has a good idea, and I'm going to pull a little bit from each to create my own financial plan for my family.
I do want to say all the people that came out and were supportive of us when we came out against Dave, none of them were like hating on us when we were publicly supporting Dave. So they were able to just be like, whatever, we disagree with Dave Ramsey, but these guys followed Dave Ramsey. We like them, so it is what it is. And then when we came out, they were like, "Oh, thank God." We feel exactly the same. But it was nice knowing that they were able to agree to disagree, and we were able to still be friends. But now they are like major fans of the fact that we said something.
Yeah. Okay, your Instagram handle is Baby Step into Freedom, and for us, we were like, okay, even though we're not following Dave Ramsey's content anymore, the baby steps did help us get started, and we're appreciative of, dipping our toes in the water with financial literacy through Dave's plan. And we're like, we're not going to speak about him like he's Lord Voldemort, and we're not going to say his name. Oh, no. And you've obviously chosen to keep Baby Step into Freedom as your Instagram handle. Has anybody said, like, oh, what? You don't follow Dave, but, like, you're keeping this handle or anything? Or, I mean, I imagine, like you said, you're surrounding yourself with good people. So they're like, who gives a crap? It's Instagram. But have you thought about, like, oh, if I could change it, I'd change it to this? Or any thoughts around the handle?
I mean, people have asked me if I'm going to change it, and I just don't feel any desire to change it. Like, my answer is always, it's more than just Dave's baby steps. Like, Dave doesn't own the words baby steps, guys. Like, that's what I tell people. Like, it's, baby steps can really refer to a lot of things, and freedom can refer to a lot of things too, so it definitely, my name was motivated by the Dave Ramsey baby steps, but now it means more to me. And I think that people who have been around on my account for long enough can see that, that are baby steps in life. And I often talk about how my account is about us bettering our life. It's not always about finances. It's just about our life journey to be better people and better our future. And that's all about taking baby steps to get there. So no one's given me hate about it. People have asked, but that's always my answer, that I just don't have this urge to change it. And Dave doesn't own the words baby steps. So he doesn't control me.
No.
Love it.
I've trademarked baby step. You can't use that unless you're.
I wouldn't be surprised.
You know what? You're probably right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'll redact every time we mention his name or baby step in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just beep it out. That's great. I love it. So, okay, our famous last question. I call it famous. It's probably not famous.
It's starting to become famous.
Is it?
I mean, we're becoming famous.
Hey, look
at
that. Okay, so
yeah, you are.
Woo! Our famous last question is: if you could put a stop sign in anybody's financial journey, at what point would you stop them from doing something? What would you be like? Absolutely no way. Please turn around. Don't pass go. Where would you stop them at?
Oh man. I think that this is a hard question.
It is a hard question. I've thought about it. Like, I don't know what I would stop people. Maybe like don't buy a new car. That might be mine. Like don't buy a new car off the lot.
I guess I go back to, like, every situation is so individual. And so I don't know if I can answer that question, because I think this is part of the flaw in Dave Ramsey's whole program is he tries to say, like, this is how you do it, but every person is so different. And so each person's breaking point can be different. Some people can handle a brand new car and that's something that they really value and it works for them. I was just talking to someone the other day that told me that they bought a $60,000 truck, and I it hurt my heart, but it was like, that was what they valued and they financially could fit it in. And the Dave Ramsey side of me was like, never finance anything like that. But also it was like their dream truck and they had a goal to pay it off. So I guess if someone is making big financial decisions and they're not thinking about how that can impact them in the future and how they're going to handle some of these financial situations, that would be the stopping point. Like, really, if you feel yourself getting to the point where you're not really in control of what's going on financially, then that's where you need to stop and reevaluate. Not necessarily, a thing or, one way to do something, but just more losing control.
Been there.
Yeah. I love that. You're
Same.
like a good friend who's just like, hey, let's sit at the coffee table and you just like talk me through it. And like, if you want to do it, cool. Just, I'm going to make you think about it for a second and like talk me through it. I have done that
with a few friends.
Yeah.
Actually.
That's so cool because you're so right. Like, Dave's like, you bought a new car and you don't have $1 million net worth. What the hell were you thinking? Right. Yeah. And it's like, well, are you going to tell the person who earns like $900,000 a year that they can't buy a $60,000 truck?
Right.
Like, yeah, I love that. It's instead just like, hey, Sit down at the table and walk me through that. Oh, okay, yeah, I see that you have $1,000 extra a month in your budget, and your car payment's $350, and this is the Toyota Tacoma that you've always wanted. So, Godspeed, and let's go pick it up.
Right. And I think a big thing for me when we got started on our whole financial journey was realizing that not everyone cares as much as I do, or not everyone is going to be as motivated about it, and people don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And people don't want to talk about it. And so I've just taken, like, I'm so open with our financial situation. Every single person in my real life knows about our finances, and that has developed over time through, you know, my Instagram and everything, because I've been so open about it for so long. So people know I am down to talk at any time about anything, but if you don't want to, then we won't. You know, I've had people be like, well, I bought a car. I know that you probably disagree with that. And I'm like, if you want to buy a car, then buy a car. If you decide that you want to pay the car off because you don't want to have a car payment anymore, or you regret doing that, come to me and let's talk about it. But I'm, you know, sure, I secretly judge people, don't we all? But I'm not going to, like, tell them that.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be about money. I'll be like, what? You got bacon on that breakfast sandwich instead of sausage? Like, what? Who are you, monster?
People were severely judging me for putting cheese on my BLT when I was pregnant, because apparently cheese doesn't go on a BLT.
What?
Well, no. You have to put cheese, avocado, and egg with the BLT.
Yeah, where are these monsters from?
But then it's not a BLT anymore.
Well,
it was a whole conversation.
It's a fancy BLT.
I love that. The acronym says bacon, lettuce, tomato. There's not a C in there.
That's what they told me. It should be nothing else. Mayonnaise is okay because it's a condiment. So I just started calling it like a BLTCA, whatever I put on it, E.
I love it. That's great. Yeah, well, if anybody wants to judge. Well, wait a minute. Who's judging a pregnant woman for putting cheese on a sandwich? Like, that's not a wise move. Like, I would pause and be like, I'm about to say this to a pregnant woman. I should not say this.
But it's the internet.
Yeah, true. It's, the Twitter fingers, it makes it really easy to say stuff when you don't have to look somebody in the eyes. Wow, that's great. Well, go ahead, if you don't mind, shout out your Instagram. If you're still running the blog or the YouTube, go ahead and plug that too. Wherever you are sharing your beautiful family journey and combining it with finances and BLTCAs, where can our listeners find your content at?
So most everything I post is on Instagram, babystepping to the number 2 freedom. My YouTube channel is still active. It's there. I posted lots of videos for a couple years. And so I still send people my YouTube channel to check out, because there's budget reviews and all kinds of stuff all about our journey and everything. So that's same name, Baby Stepping to Freedom. And then my blog's there too, babysteppingtofreedom.com. It's all called the same thing. Not changing it, Dave.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes it real easy for us to find it. That's right. We'll toss it in the show notes from this episode. So if a listener's hearing this, we are going to do the work for you. You can just go and hit the link. You don't even need to.
Just go to the show notes, click on Baby Stepping to Freedom, and then go follow.
I love it.
Because her daughter's really cute too.
I think so too.
Nice. Awesome. Well, Alison, thank you so much for sitting down with us. We appreciate it. Thank you for bringing along Joe Exotic and spending a little Saturday afternoon with us. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Have a great one.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, Toasty, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Make sure you go follow Alison on Instagram and us if you're not already following us. We are at The Price of Avocado Toast. You want to tune in to hear some daily updates on our move, because this is going to be an interesting one. And if you're at this point right now and you have no idea what I'm talking about, you have to go back and listen to episode 35, where we announced some really, really, really big things for our family.
Yes, absolutely. You want to get the daily updates on how the moving process is going. You don't want to have to wait for the next episode to come out. So go follow us now so you can stay locked in. That's going to do it for this episode of The Price of Avocado Toast. As always, we are so thankful to have had this conversation with you, and so thankful to be part of this community alongside you. Happy budgeting.
You've got this, Toasties. Thank you for listening to The Price of Avocado Toast. If you vibed with this episode, share it with a friend.
If you're interested in speaking more with the financial coach, hit up our coach Ryan at MeFinanciallyFree on Instagram.